In this short tutorial, I'd like to show you how you can use a laser engraver to customize pieces of wood and create a nice little souvenir or a desktop piece that you could give to someone in your family. Here are some examples of text as well as graphics that have been taken off the internet. This is another style. This is called a vector burn, which is a little more complex, but it allows you to actually use the laser like a cutting tool. Or you can create very nice desktop pieces like this one, and you can see from the sign or the stamp, you can get logos off the internet. Many of them are copyright free, and they work quite well. I might want to tell you though, when you look for a logo or a design or whatever you choose to burn or engrave, choose one that's black and white with contrasting colors. Photographs, images that have lots of colors are difficult for the computer to interpret. So your best bet will be black and white, drafting drawings or items like that. You also might want to take a cutting board and customize it. These make great gifts. You probably want to engrave it in the upper corner or lower corner, not in the center, because that's where you'd be using the cutting board and it would get worn or damaged. But if you tend to do your engraving off to the side here, you'll have a better results and it'll last a long time and be a very nice gift. I'm going to show you how to get to that right now. Here's the general setup we have in our shop. Your setup may be different. You may have a desktop or a different colored laser engraver, but for general purposes, they look and work pretty similar in style and action. We've got a computer where you generate your image and create your drawing, and then we have the laser engraver in the back where you engrave the actual wood pieces. Briefly, some of the parts of the engraver are the lid. If the lid is not closed, the laser will not work. You may see the head moving back and forth, but without the lid being closed, the laser will not burn. One note, when you're working with the laser, be sure to be careful not to bump the setting, not to let the doors slam closed. The actual tube that does the burning is located in the back of the laser. You may not be able to see it on yours, you may be able to, but it's on the back, and there are about 3 mirrors that reflect it and bring it to the head where it's focused and burns into the wood. So the laser engraver, please, when you slip the wood in, be careful, and then or out, and then when you return it to do your laser engraving, please be careful not to bump this part in here. It is very delicate, and you can tell immediately if it's been damaged. It will no longer work. The basic equipment, it has a kill switch in the event you need to turn it off immediately. You can push that, turn it off, it'll shut down the power immediately. To reset it, you twist it, it'll spring back up. It has a power meter telling you how much power is being sent to the tube. It has a laser test switch. This machine has an ignition switch or an on-off safety switch that will turn it on. As this operates with high temperatures, never leave this operating unattended, as the material could burn out of control and start a fire. So you never want to leave this running when you're not watching it or around it. Also, this machine is sensitive. If someone bumps it while you're using it, there's a chance it'll send the machine into a jolt and you won't get good results. There are basically 2 programs you want to be using on this machine that will help you do your work. The Word program, or a text or a publishing program, is definitely one you want to have on. So we're going to do all our composing on a on a Word program. Now, you can see here I've created a desktop sign, but we're going to change it around a bit, and I want to show you how to do it. I'm going to take this, I'm going to drag it onto the desktop. And I'm just going to drag it to the desktop. I'm just going to drag it to the, well, I can't. So basically, this is the image that I saved. We're in Word, Microsoft Word. And this is an image I borrowed from the internet. I went to Google, I did an image search, and I came up with this logo for the school district. Now over here, I'm going to put the name of a teacher or a secretary, and I'm going to put below their title. So let's see how I get this done. So I'm going to highlight this, change it to Carrie Martin. I'm going to change this down here below to District Text Coordinator. All right. Now, one thing that I've learned through trial and error is that moving these around on the field is critical. Being able to put it where you think it looks best is important. And sometimes if you don't make this change, it won't let you. So let me show you how I did it. You do a right click, you go down to where it says wrap text, and you click in front of text. When you do that, it allows you to bring that in front of the text if you want it to. So I think you'll find that as you go through here, helpful to be able to wrap the text around. So I'm a bad speller, so I'm going to double check my spelling. C-A-R-I-M-A-R-T-I-N, District Test Coordinator. Yes, it looks good. Okay. Now comes time to actually send the image to the laser. To do that, we need to make sure that this program, it looks like a pyramid, it's called Full Spectrum Laser. We have to make sure that that program is open. Because if this program, Full Spectrum Laser, is not open and running, it won't print. The long story short, it won't print. So we're back here. In order to print, we go to File, up here on File, and we click it, and we go to Print. We click on Print, and then we go Print again. We click on Print one more time. And now if we go back over to Full Spectrum Laser, we see that it's being brought over, and there it is. There's our image. Now, I'm going to show you how we then make sure it's going to be sent over properly and at the right size and settings. Now, one thing I don't know if you can see, but if you look down in this corner, it says Attempting Connection. All right, it says Attempting Connection. If this doesn't appear in green and say connected, you won't be able to communicate any of these commands to the laser. So before you go farther, make sure your computer says connected and it's in green. Sometimes clicking on that will refresh it and allow it to connect. Sometimes if the machine is not turned on, I don't have it turned on right now because I don't want the noise of the fan and the pump running. It would be difficult to hear me. So I'm going to leave it off until the last minute. But this is important that this is the part here where it says attempting, it should be saying connection in green. Okay? Maybe your instructor can help you establish connection if you've lost that connection. Also, other important things you should know about: if you wish to invert the color, I don't think you would want to, but if you wanted to invert color, that would invert all the everything. If you wanted to flip it around or upside down, that would change it that way. If you want to flip it around left to right, right to left, you could do that. If you want to change the size, which I know we do, we can go here and it'll say set scale. If you change this to 2, it will set scale. Click it. It increases the size. Now it's quite a bit larger. Now here's a trick. If it gets too big and you go, oh, that's not the size I want, I need to go smaller, you need to go back here. Oh, crud. Sorry about that. You need to go back here and change it to anything below 1. It could be 0.9, 0.8, 0.75, but it must be below 1 or it's going to keep going bigger. So when I hit click set scale, it now has gone smaller. But I want it bigger, so I'm going to say 1.5 set scale. Okay, we'll see later on if this is the right size or not. But that's how you change the size. Now, if there are times when you want to change it in a way that's not set by scale, you want to resize it. So you can stretch it out. If you hit that button and increase it, you can stretch it out downwards. If you hit this button, you can make it fit a particular part, although you may end up with the distortion if you force it into a different size of way of sizing it. And you would hit resize if you really wanted to pull it that way. I like to use this one in the sense that it's keeping it to scale. Okay. Now another one you might want to know about is the black and white threshold. Black and white threshold is a scale that can be moved back and forth. When you pull that, you notice, I know this might be hard to see, but it's changing how the density or the darkness or the contrast. A lot of times with images, you can kind of tweak it a bit and get something that works best for you. All right, the raster speed. This you can change depending on your laser's power and settings. If you slow down the speed, you'll end up with a darker image, deeper, darker. If you speed it up, it'll be fainter and lighter. In some cases, if you send it too light, too fast, you'll barely be able to see what the laser did because the setting is too quick and it hasn't had a chance to burn in. For this particular material I'm using, I'm going to set it at about close to 30% setting. And for this particular, I'm going to set the power level to full power. So I have all the power going to there. Now, before I push play, and this is the play button, I'd like to know what are the extremities of this area. What's the outer perimeter of this working area? And this button right here allows us to, it'll let the laser, when I click it later, it'll outline where it's going to work. And you'll be able to see, is the area too small for the material you're working with, or is it too big? Sometimes if you're totally puzzled where you are, you can click this one and you'll get a test fire of the laser. It'll just give it a little dot on the wood, and that'll kind of tell you where exactly it's starting from. Home, looks like a little home or a little house. If you click on that one, it'll bring the laser head back to the original starting point. So that's what the home does. There are a lot of features here that I don't use right now. They're not that common for me to use, but you may learn about them later. I'm just showing you the bare bones of what makes this one work. Okay, now I'm going to change the view, and we're not going to be seeing the screen here, but just remember, that's when you want to play or actually start burning. This one is for home, to bring it home. This one shows you the outer working area that it's going to be testing. It's got the 4 little blue dots in the corner. The test fire, I rarely use it. And then the sizing tool, which I'll be making reference to as I do the work over there. All right, now the laser is on, and you may hear the background noise from the laser. What I'm going to do is I've put the wood in place, and you want to make sure that it's parallel with this beam. If it's not parallel, when it prints it out, you'll have a diagonal or a piece of laser engraving that's not perpendicular to where it needs to be. Now I'm going to push the home button and bring it back to the home position. So you can see it's going back into the home position right there. That red laser tip is not the laser itself, it's rather an indicator of roughly where the laser is going to burn. Now it sometimes is inaccurate, so you should always assume that it's going to be close, but perhaps not exactly there. I like to figure that that little conical lens housing is roughly right below it is where it's going to burn the image. Now what I'm going to do is, using the perimeter button, I'm going to see where this laser will be burning. Also, I like to sight the edge of that piece of wood along with the beam or a strip of the metal in the back and make sure it looks parallel. It looks pretty parallel. Let me pull down just a hair more, and that looks fine. Okay, now let me test the perimeter size. As you can see, it's a little small, so I'm going to get it bigger. Hitting the sizing button, I'm going to go up by 1.5. Scale. Let's try it now. And that's a nice size. Now what I want to do is bring the head over to the right side in this direction because it's too far on the left side. So using the arrow key, I'm going to jog it over, and now I'm going to test it again with the perimeter key and see if I like the balance between the two sides. Well, looks like it go a little to the left back. Let's test it again. Yeah, a little more to the left. A little more to the right. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we're about ready to start. I'm going to lower carefully and slowly the lid, do my final check of the spelling and the settings, and when I get the permission from the instructor, I will start the push the play button and commence the burning. Now at this point, you'll be pretty certain to see, is the laser burning? Now that the laser is done, carefully open the door, carefully pull out the material you worked on. You can see it turned out quite nicely. Definitely is a nice way of finishing a project. Then for sanding it, I recommend a fine grain sandpaper, 200, 400, maybe 220, nothing very coarse. And when you sand, make sure you use a sanding block to hold the sandpaper tightly. So as you sand back and forth, always with the grain, you'll remove, do you see there's sort of a hint of smoke or smudge? And that's where as the laser engraved, it burned the wood and the smoke sort of blew out. What we want to do is lightly clean away that smoke or that resin. If you were to sand just by your hand, as you would sand back and forth, your fingers would fall into each groove and you'd lose some of that fine detail. You'd lose some of that sharpness of the laser, which the laser can do so nicely. To prevent that, definitely you want to use a block of wood to hold your sandpaper. And when you sand, as always your instructor has told you, you want to sand with the grain in this direction. After you get it sanded, you have a couple options for finishing it. One is if it's a cutting board, you most likely will just want to use mineral oil or butcher block conditioner, which is great and it's a good product. However, if it's going to go on the wall or a desk, and you want it to really have a pop to it, and you're not going to be eating food off it, I like to use an acrylic spray. I found this by trial and error, that I could get a really nice finish by building up layers of finish with this spray. And you can build up a nice finish. It helps really set off the contrast between the non-burned and the burned wood, and you get a very nice finish. So you can go with a matte, semi-gloss, or high gloss finish with a Krylon spray. I think you're going to enjoy this project. It's a lot of fun, and I think it's really rather easy to come up with an impressive project. You can burn wooden pens if you make a pen. You can burn, it'll burn engraved glasses with permission. You can do a lot of different things. You can engrave a iPad. So have fun, be creative, but at the same time, please be careful and be careful with the equipment. Take care. Bye-bye.